Morning everybody, and welcome to the Essential Hypnosis and NLP Training. So today's video is going to be all about body language. I'm Trish Palmer, designer and creator of this wonderful training. Hi Kylie, hi Julie, give me some love heart guys, let me know that you're out there. So let's talk about body language. So physiology communicates 55% of language. So even when we're hearing other people's sounds and their voices and things like that, we actually only take in approximately 33% of what anybody says at any one time. And then on top of that, you've got 55% of the communication being body language. When you were born, you didn't know how to speak or anything like that, so you relied on this wonderful natural talent to get the messages across, and you were also communicating with your parents and your peers around you with your body language. So we pick up on a person's mood based on their physiology before they even speak. There's many times where somebody will walk into a room and they've got slumped over and they're, sort of feeling a bit crappy, and then you're just like, oh, they're either having a rough time, they're too tired, they're angry. You've already eliminated all these other emotions and started to generalize what else it is that's going on with them so that you can act appropriately. Hi Lynette, how you going, gorgeous? So when it comes to physiology, you're getting a lot of communication all the time whenever anybody's around you. Hi Sue, give me some love hearts, guys. So with physiology also has an energy based with it and vibrations as well. So there's many times where you can actually be in a situation with other people, but you can still feel alone or a little bit lonely or something like that, and that's because you're picking up on vibrations. Those people are actually sucking the energy out of you, or they're not recharging you the way you want to. So physiology is a huge communication factor. Your ability to gauge a person's body language can help you connect to your client on a much deeper level. If I remove the sound of a person's voice and base them on their actions, I will always know the truth. There are many times in my sessions where I'm actually not even listening to my clients, what they're saying, but I'm watching their physiology. So recently in a free consult that I did, every time I mentioned a certain word, my client would flick their leg. And I knew that this was an uncomfortable zone for their unconscious mind, and their critical factor was their critical faculty was actually kicking in as a bullshit receptor the whole time, because this was uncomfortable for them. And as much as their voice was going la 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 la, their physiology, every time I mentioned these certain things, you could see it dropping, or there would be a twitch of the leg, or a shift in the seat, or a scratch of the face, or something like that. I also had one particular lady that every time I touched on something that was uncomfortable, because she was coming for trichomania, where she pulls her hair out, and every time she got uncomfortable, she actually would touch her hair. And that was, for me, was telling me that this was a comfort thing, and I could actually gauge what some of her triggers were, and she didn't even know what they were. So this also helps you put you a cut above the rest. When your client is in that free consult, or they're in the chair, or you're doing NLP or something like that, really gauge the physiology of what's going on. How are they sitting? How are they standing? Eliminate the sound of their voice for just a few moments whilst you're asking a couple of questions, and then watch them shift, move, the tweak of the face, where are they looking inside the room, because that is giving you a heap more information than any words that are ever coming out of their mouth. So body language can come in quite a few different forms, okay? So we have the face language. We have people that blush. They go all bright and red when you ask certain things. You have little twitches and things like that that go on in the face, or maybe they'll touch themselves in a certain area. So for example, if your client is actually getting like a bit nervous sort of thing, they usually will touch their forehead. Even if they're not so much wiping the sweat off their brow, they'll actually be touching it. They'll make that thinking scenario sort of thing. So watch for the physiology. It's amazing what you're doing. There's been quite a few times where I've asked a question and they'll be like, And whilst they're doing that, I know that this is a resource that they're trying to tap into. Hi Megan, give me some love hearts, darling. So when it comes to the face language, watch what's going on. Later on in this training, I'll actually teach you all about the eyes and how it is I read eyes, so that I know whether my client is actually tapping into the truth or whether they're actually constructing information that they believe is the truth. And I'll teach you all about that in a later module in this training. Thanks, guys. Body language also comes in like your eyes, like I said before, so I'll be teaching you all about that as well. What some of the basics when it comes to body language is watching their eyes and watching how much they're blinking at this stage, because any signs of nervousness and things like that, they'll actually start to blink a lot more and blink a lot heavier. So watch their blinking and how they're actually doing that, because that can actually show you that they're nervous, that they're uncomfortable, that perhaps you're not quite in rapport or something like that, or you're actually touching base on a subject that actually needs to be reconstructed or reframed so that they can relax around that situation. Lips are also a great body language communicator, so people will pierce their lips. They'll pick at them, they'll lick them and things like that. So watch what they're doing with their lips, know what they're doing, whether they're just like, oh, that's a trigger sort of thing, you know, they've got that little bit of worry or nervousness coming, and when they start to pick, you're like, so what are you worried about right now? Ask them the relevant questions to go with the body language. Then all of a sudden you're on a completely different story, and that is the actual trigger rather than what it is that they came in for. Posture is fantastic when it comes to body language. You get many people that actually will slump in the chair, or they'll walk in and like, how are you today? And like, yeah, I'm really good. Well, the physiology and the posture isn't telling me that you're doing really well. So we'll have to work on that. So look at your client's posture and demeanor. Hair is a wonderful one as well. I know this one for myself. So when you get to know your client, because most of my clients are coming in for more than one session, and I can actually tell by their hair whether they're having a rough day or not. So when their hair is all shiny and sleek and smooth and looking fabulous, then they're usually having a good day. When it's rough or flat or a little bit greasy, there's something else going on. So they can have any amount of makeup they want on, but the hair will actually show me that they're probably having a little bit of a tired day or a rough day. So have a look at all these things. It's fascinating. The way they're walking, sitting, or standing style. One thing I was taught many years ago when I was a massage therapist was to actually watch my client walk up to my clinic so that I could gauge whether perhaps a left hip was out, or maybe a right shoulder or something like that. So gauge your client as they're walking in, sort of thing. You know, be happy to invite them into the room and watch them walk in towards the chair. How do they throw the keys onto the table or sit their phone or something like that? This is all signs of whether it's tiredness, anger, sadness, worry. These are all other emotions that are actually acting out that they may not be talking about. Arms and legs, are they crossed or are they uncrossed? Are they in a defensive mode? Or are they in a relaxed mode? I went to volleyball last night and joined a brand new team, and there was a girl on there that went flat out into defensive mode. She put her hands on her hips and she stood there looking at me. And I'm like, okay, I understand that you're the dominating female on this team. I'm all cool with that. So I'm going to deliberately make sure for the next few weeks that I play in complete opposite position to her, because even if I'm close to her on that volleyball pitch, she will still feel intimidated if I go towards the ball and she feels like that ball was her responsibility. So I have a dominating female on my team. She's very rarely even spoken to me yet, but I already know what it is that she's like, so that way I can gauge it, I can create rapport and prestige over the next few weeks, and then slowly break that down. Same with your clients. Are they in defensive mode? Are they in some kind of arrogance mode? Are they in this authority mode where they're like, nah, no, this is what I'm doing, so that you can break that down. It's usually not what you said, it's how you said it. So watch their physiology. Personal space, that's a really great one for people that are kinesthetic. So there are people out there that rely mostly on their preferred learning language is to touch and to feel and all this sort of stuff. So if they're standing really close to you, chances are they're a kinesthetic person and they like to feel things and be part of emotions and vibrations and energies and things like that. So if you're coming across this person and they're tapping you on the shoulder or something like that, then all of a sudden you may have a kinesthetic client on your hand, and you need to actually change up your script writing to say words like feel and touch rather than look and see. A lot of the times they won't respond to, as you look into the future, they won't actually respond to that. But if you say to them, if you imagine yourself out into the future, exact same scenario, they'll respond better to that, because they'll say, oh, I can't look into the future. But then if you say you can imagine into the future or pretend you're in the future, all of a sudden they'll be like, oh yeah, I can definitely do that, because they're actually using their emotions rather than their visual, because they're not usually visual people. When it comes to personal space also, you can also notice what a handshake does with a lot of clients. So I'll reach out my hand and check out the handshake. And if they grab my hand and they just shake it normally, I can gauge whether it's sloppy, so maybe it's a low self-esteem thing, or maybe it's a really strong handshake. And what I'll do is I'll then put my hand on top of theirs to show them that I'm an authority figure. And then if they tap me on the shoulder or put their hand on top of mine, I know that they are the ones that want the power and they want to be the authority figure. So I now have to find a better tactic to lead them rather than them trying to lead my sessions. So personal space is a really, really good one. I get clients that sometimes give me a hug or a kiss on the cheek or something like that. I'm not a real huge fan of personal space. I like to keep the space, but I have clients that are very kinesthetic and they need that hug, or maybe they need that pat on the back or that high five or something like that. You as a hypnotherapist can actually step up and be an even better hypnotherapist by going into what's known as the chameleon mode, where you step into your client's world and you start to mirror them. Hey, like I said, I'm not a big hugger, but at the end of the day, if that's what the client requires and that's what they're asking for, I'll happily give them a hug. I'm like, would you like a hug? And they're like, yes, I'll do like a hug. I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. So make sure you're checking out the personal space. Are they in a power mode where they're putting their hand on top of yours during a handshake? Or perhaps they're just touching you on the leg every time they're like, ah, ha, 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 and they touch you. So they're an anchoring person. So you're watching all of these wonderful things going on and you're gauging all this other information that they're not telling you. Gestures are really good also. Like, are they using their hands all the time? Do they talk with their hands? If they talk with their hands, chances are they're a visual person. So they like to make gestures because they're trying to attract you visually, because they can't actually get it out of their system. Like, they don't know how to explain it. So they will actually speak with their hands. People that are audio will usually go, oh, as you can just listen. So they'll tap on the ears, or they'll turn the head, or they'll get in a bit closer to you or something like that. So look for all those gestures that are going on, because it can help you pick up whether they're a visual learner, an audio learner, a kinesthetic learner, or maybe they're what's known as auditory digital. But we'll be going more into the training of that later on. And energy as well. Is your client full of energy, or are they completely exhausted and they can't be bothered? Are they yawning in the chair and all this sort of stuff? If they're yawning in the chair, there's no point in sitting them back for that session, because they're just going to sleep and they're not going to get what they need out of that session. So you need to prop them up, put some pillows around them, and make sure that head bobs around. Okay? If you're getting a client that has no energy for their session, then make sure you ask questions within the session. Whilst they're in that hypnotic trance, ask them, so what color is the door? Where are you now? Are you alone? Ask them questions so that they can constantly bring themselves out of that sleep range and back into the theta hypnosis range, because heaps of people can easily just and start falling asleep. Ask them what their name is, what time it is. Ask them all sorts of things whilst you're in there doing that hypnotic trance to keep that energy up. Now, if your client has way too much energy, make sure you do a long, relaxing script. Because if you do a rapid induction on somebody who's already too excited and too much energy in them, then they're not going to go into that hypnotic trance appropriately. They're just going to sit there and listen to you. And even if they've had hypnosis before, they're also going to just sit there and listen to you because they've got too much energy. They're trying to burn it up. They're trying to use it. And you're not actually taking any of that from them to balance them out a bit. So you have been raised with this natural ability to gauge people's body languages. It happened from day dot. You couldn't communicate, so you were watching people, learning from them. Milton Erickson actually discovered all of this when he was so sick when he was younger, so that he could actually work out what people were saying and doing were two completely different ends of the spectrum. So as time went on, we actually forget to tap into this wonderful ability and use it to empower us. It's like just like breathing. We kind of forget that it's there, but we just do it anyway. Yet when we focus on our breathing and slow it down, we can lower our heart rate, we can become more relaxed, and we can enjoy our lives much, much more. So when it comes to the body language, it's exactly the same. Tap into your wonderful natural ability to gauge people and what's going on, to learn their language, to learn what's going on within them, and find out, is it perhaps a low self-esteem thing? Is it an ego thing? Is this a worry thing? You can find out all this wonderful information just based on their physiology. And when you're working with a client, you must ensure that your body language is good, as your client will pick up on it and it can affect the service that you are providing. If you're walking into a session and you find yourself zoning out, because hey, I've even done that. You find yourself zoning out, you've got to get into that energy sense. You've got to get into that character. You've got to get into that zone, that vibration, to ensure that your client gets what they need. Because you always want your client to be leaving in a better state than when they came in, so they look forward to coming back and seeing you next time. So use your body language, watch other people's body languages. Now, if you're not seeing a lot of clients at the moment, that's cool. Perhaps you're playing a sport, or you're going to a community group, or you've got some family members or something like that. Just start gauging those people and start assessing what possible mood that that's got going on, or what possible emotion could this be behind the body language that's trying to express themselves. When a child is screaming for help and complaining that something is hurting them, it's usually not about what it is that's hurting them. It's usually another emotion that's going on behind them. So there's all these other things going on. Listen to the emotion behind the body language, okay? Don't worry about the sound of their voice. Focus on people based on their actions. Heaps of times I've come across people and they're like, oh, I want to lose weight. And then all of a sudden they're drinking soft drinks. And it's like, well, if I base you on your body language, I don't think you really do. Think about it. It's a wonderful, wonderful ability. So go out there, try it out, and use it. It's really, really cool when you can actually pick up things. And there's many times where people will say to me, Trish, you're psychic. I'm not psychic. I'm a mentalist, and I can gauge people based on their actions and their body language and their words, their tone. And I can make a very, very good prediction of what's probably going to happen in any space of time. So go out there and use this body language and make sure that your body language is completely appropriate for your clients as well. So join me in the next video. I'm going to start teaching you about inductions. There are quite a few inductions out there. There are some hypnotic ones. There are some NLP ones. So join me next Tuesday for that video, because I'll actually start giving out some information on how my inductions are so, so powerful that I've even just hypnotized people just by standing at a carnival and talking to them. So inductions are fantastic, and it's amazing how some inductions you can just snap your fingers and you're done, and the other inductions may take 10, 15, 20 minutes depending on the client. So join me for the next video. I'm going to be talking about that. Have an awesome day, everybody. Bye-bye. Mwah.